Today in pro wrestling history. Today we celebrate the birthdays of Dakota Kai, Colt Cabana, and Brian Knobbs of the Nasty Boys. On this day in pro wrestling history, WWE would release the following: Zeb Coulter, Alex Riley, Cameron of the Funkadactyls, Santino Marella, Damian Sandow, Wade Barrett, El Torito, and Hornswoggle on this day in 2016. Global Force Wrestling would announce their first ever roster on this day in 2015. New Japan Pro Wrestling would present Descendants on this day in 2009. WWE hires Hornswoggle on this day in 2006. Ultimo Dragon would win the NWA World Middleweight Championship on this day in 2003. Randy Orton would win the OVW Hardcore Championship in 2001. WWF would host Insurrection in 2000. Jerry the King Lawler would win the USWA Unified World Heavyweight Championship on this day in 1990. El Canak would win the UWA World Heavyweight Championship on this day in 1988. Rick Rude would win the World Class TV Championship on this day in 1986. World Class Championship Wrestling would present the David Von Erich Memorial Parade of Champions on this day in 1984. Junkyard Dog and Mr. Olympia would win the Mid-South Tag Team Championships on this day in 1982. Also on this day in 1982, King Kong Bundy would become the World Class American Heavyweight Champion. Hurricane Costello and Carlos Colon would win the WWC North American Tag Team Championships on this day in 1979. Bruno Sammartino would beat Gorilla Monsoon on this day to become the WWC North American Heavyweight Champion in 1978. Dino Bravo and Mr. Wrestling would win and become the NWA Tag Team Champions on this day in 1976. Dale Lewis would become NWA Florida Brass Knuckle Champion on this day in 1974. Don Curtis and Abe Jacobs would win the NWA Florida Tag Team Championships on this day in 1964. Danny McShane would win the NWA Texas Heavyweight Championship on this day in 1950, and Danny McShane would win the World Light Heavyweight Championship on this day in 1947. And that is it for today.